stars.
Oh, yeah. God, goats, and guitars. E.G. Kite here with us this morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning. How you doing this morning? It's Tuesday. It's an interesting day. It's the last day that people can sign up to be on the ballot for the next senator from the great state of South Carolina. It's also the day that Lindsey Graham gets honored in Washington, D.C. Yes, it is the day of his funeral. Evidently, he's going to... I'm not sure I exactly understand it. He's laying in state for a little bit of time, then they're taking him and they'll have a ceremony there in Washington, D.C., I know one thing for sure, Netanyahu and Zelensky will both be there. President Trump is supposed to be speaking. So that's kind of the roundup. We'll, of course, get all the details as it unfolds today. Then tomorrow he comes home to South Carolina. There will be a service in Columbia and then home to Pickens where they will have a private ceremony. So that's long time coming, but glad it is here. And we'll get more details, and I'm sure there'll be more to talk about on that. But and it's also, as I said, the last day, so we'll have a race that is set. The fluidity will be over, and we will know who the horses are in the horse race. Then we can begin to discuss what the heck they think they bring to the table. Okay, I'm Ann Eller. How you doing this morning? Woo! I tell you, they've got, we've got so much to talk about. One of the things that I do want to spend just a tad moment on, daylight savings time, keeping it that way for good, I think is a win as far as I'm concerned. Also, SpaceX took off and had a perfect, nailed it. So this is the first time they took off since they have become a public company. We'll be talking about gender dolls today. Yeah, I can't believe I'm going to talk about it either, but I am going to talk about gender dolls. The train derailment here in Cross Hill is another topic we're going to touch on, although there was a lot of speculation that the material, that the white stuff that came out of it, I'll just give you a little heads up, we'll come back and discuss it in a moment, was borax, which is what they use in laundry detergent and everything. So that's we will talk about that. And dating spreadsheets. How did we live without them is the question. How did all these people get married, have families, love each other and everything without having a dating spreadsheet? Those are some of the things that are on my mind this morning, and we'll see what else I come across. But first off, let's catch the weather here today. Penny and I were out for our morning stroll here this morning. I can say this without any hesitation. This weather is perfect for mushrooms in the backyard. That's right. We have tons of them growing up. And of course, Penny is, I think she has lost her interest in them. I think. I'm not too sure, but she doesn't seem as ravenous for mushrooms as she has seemed, which is a good thing as far as I'm concerned. But I'm running around picking them all up. So I'm getting a heck of a lot of exercise. Bend down, pick up, pick up, pick up. All these little buttons there, these little white buttons out there are mushrooms. So anyways, if you didn't get them now, they'd get bigger, and then maybe she likes bigger, tastier ones. I'm not sure, but she has not been out there really going after the mushrooms. However, other things, no problem. All right, so right now it is 80 degrees. Feels like 87. We are headed for a high today of 94. Let's see. Partly cloudy, hot and humid, high of 94. I tell you what, I'm going to be glad when we get out of all this humid. This humidity is just making the air so heavy, and it's not fun to be outside. I can't imagine if you work outside all day long how you do it, because I certainly could not do it. All right, it's a high of 94, low of 74 today. Tomorrow, high of 93, low of 69. And Thursday, high of 90, low of 67. Friday, high of 93, low of 71. Looks like coming in on Saturday, high of 87, low of 71, and about a 50% chance of some afternoon showers. So that's what we are looking for as far as the weekend. Coming in on Sunday, high of 84. Wow. We'll be freezing. High of 84, low of 71. And then the next week, it's going to be a little cooler. It's just going to be in the upper 80s. As opposed to the lower 90s, it'll be the lower 80s. Looks like they are right now transporting Lindsey Graham's body from, I don't know, I'm just looking up here on the TV. But they are transferring his body. See, the casket is a flagged draped casket. So this is, I don't know how you feel about funerals and everything, but I will tell you a little story. Many years before I was married to Jeff, I had another husband, and he was in a horrific car accident. He spent most of his time in intensive care. Actually, they would put him in intensive care. He'd get a little better. They'd move him to the floor. Then he'd move back up. I was young. I was in my early 20s, and it was a very harrowing experience to say the least. I will say this. It was at a teaching hospital, and at this teaching hospital, they would constantly say to me this: well, I think he's going to die tonight. And then you'd go, oh, okay. And then they'd say, but, and they'd always have a but, and they could do a procedure. Well, I was very young, and I was by myself, and so I said, well, okay, and they'd say you'd have to sign here, so I'd sign, and this went on for about 8 weeks. When my husband died, I was, I think, somewhat relieved because it had been so hard, and I was alone, but I managed. Everything was okay. But the big thing I wanted to tell you about this was we had a memorial service for my husband. It was a funeral memorial service. Anyways, all these people were coming and everything, and I'd gotten everything done, and my mother came from out of town. She came to be there, and my parents did not like my first husband. I'm not sure they like my second husband, but who cares? Anyways, when it was time to go to the funeral / memorial service, I said, no, I don't think I'm going. No, I'm not going to go. I don't need to do this. And everybody's sitting there going, come on, Ann, you need to go. And I'd go, no, I'm staying right here. I'm good. Y'all go ahead. Well, eventually they got me in the car, and eventually we got there, and we had the service, and it was very, very nice. But every time I see a funeral service going on, if you're watching one on TV, I mean, they're just taking Lindsey Graham, the family's going in, yada, yada. I always remember that where I said, no, I'm not going. I don't need to go. And everybody was literally pushing me in the car. Yes, you need to go. So I don't know what your experience has been with this type of thing. Have you ever said, no, I don't need to go? Yeah. Oh, I did. And I was dead serious. And I don't know what my fear was about it, but I definitely had a fear of going. And it's just it's kind of wild. So, and that kind of leads into something that I didn't think I was going to talk about this morning, but there is a whole psychology says people who panic before a problem even begins are not pessimists. They may be looking for certainty. I think this is so wild because here we are. Quite often we become very panicky. I was panicked about going to my husband's funeral. And so even psychology says people who panic before a problem even begins are not pessimists. They may be looking for certainty. So it says that they're not necessarily weak or pessimistic. More often, their minds are trying to protect them from uncertainty by predicting possible threats. So have you ever met someone who starts worrying before an exam has even begun, imagines the worst before a doctor's appointment, or feels anxious about a conversation that hasn't happened yet? Yes, I have. Some people seem to prepare themselves for disaster long before there is any evidence that something will actually go wrong. Psychology says this reaction is more common than people realize. While occasional worry is a normal part of life, repeatedly panicking before a problem even begins often reflects how the brain processes uncertainty rather than the likelihood of a real threat. So, I just thought the brain often mistakes uncertainty for danger. Remember that show? Danger, Will Robinson! Danger, Will Robinson! Lost in Space. One of the most widely accepted explanations comes from research on anticipatory anxiety. Unlike fear, which responds to an immediate threat, anticipatory anxiety occurs when the mind becomes distressed about something that may happen in the future. Oh, come on, we all realize that, right? We all realize that, don't we? We all have that, oh my God, what's going to happen? So it says, for example, someone waiting for a job interview may imagine failing every question, even though the interview has not yet begun. Their body responds with racing heart, tense muscles, and anxious thoughts, despite the absence of any actual problem. Yeah, I call that making it a problem before it's a problem. Have you ever done that? 864-332-9355. 864-332-9355. Absolutely. Even when you're not talking about it, in the back of your mind, you're thinking it. So, anyways, I was reading that article early this morning, and I thought, that's kind of interesting. It says, intolerance of uncertainty can increase anxiety. We have an intolerance of uncertainty. Researchers have found that many people who panic early struggle with what psychologists call intolerance of uncertainty. This concept, extensively studied by a psychologist, Michael Dugas, refers to finding uncertain situations especially uncomfortable. Well, sure. Don't we always like the what we understand, what we know? We get up in the morning, we have our coffee, our tea, we take the kids to school, we go to our job. Do we like predictability? Absolutely, I think we do. But then again, sometimes people like me like to live on the edge. How about you? All right. That was just an article I found interesting. I didn't mean to go on this little curve, but it was a possibility. All right, I'm also going to be talking about dating apps and dating Spreadsheets, having a spreadsheet, that goes right along with that story. But first off, I wanted to talk about, what did I want to talk about? Is it right here? What happened to it? The story about, oh, here it is right here. The CSX train derailed early Monday morning. In fact, I got off the radio yesterday and there was a blurb on Facebook about it. I was like, ah. But a CSX train derailed early Monday morning near Cross Hill, leaving 17 rail cars off the tracks. I do believe originally they thought it was 21 or 22, but the corrected story is 17. The derailment happened at about 3:54 Monday near Witten Road, according to Jonathan Stuckey, manager of media relations for CSX. Stuckey said Lawrence County 911 was immediately notified and first responders responded to the scene. No injuries were reported. Abby Banks, public information officer for Greenwood County, said Witten Road was expected to reopen later Monday. Once the road reopens, Lawrence County officials will turn the scene over to CSX to continue the cleanup. Abby Banks said the white material visible in aerial is a plastic polymer, but actually that what they came up with that was borax. And so I think this story is not as updated as the latest story. But it turned out to be borax cleaning agent. So I guess if I'm making a joke here, if any gets into Lake Greenwood, the lake will be really clean. They are trying to keep it from getting in the lake. I don't believe there is any, if a little bit got in the lake, it's not a big deal, but they are trying to keep it from getting in the lake. I think they actually put up things to keep it, barriers to keep it from getting in the lake as they clean it up. I read something they were using some type of equipment plus a vacuum to vacuum it up. So the other thing that is said, that only one of the elevated openings beneath the lower train trestle is open to boat traffic. Abby Banks said the boaters traveling through the area should use extreme caution, remain alert, and follow directions from South Carolina DNR. And the cause of the derailment, of course, remains under investigation. So that's a little bit about what is happening on the train derailment that happened yesterday. I did hear reports yesterday afternoon that some of the they still had not got some of it cleared, and so people were not able to get out of where they live there. But let's see if there's anything more here. I think there is some more, but the most important thing, I think, is that white material is actually borax. You remember back in the old days when they had the westerns on, and didn't they have wasn't there a show called 20, or what was it called? 20 Mule Team Borax. It had advertised the mule team that was out crossing the country. I don't remember, but I know that they advertised borax as a cleaning solution for clothes, etc. So there you go. That's a little bit about the train derailment. Serious. They don't seem to understand, but they've already, I believe I saw in another news hit that they've already be sending people to fix the bridge where the train trestle was. They're already working on that. So I just wanted to share that if you're out in that area, if you want to cross that, you might be looking for a different way around it. That is what would be important too. All right, so let's talk about some other things here. What else do we have in the news this morning? Right here. Anything more there? No, no more about the train that I can see at this moment, unless somebody has updated something else. All right, let's talk about a few other things here this morning. SpaceX took off to a perfect takeoff. They did some space. What are they called? Space things that they put out in space. It was all a big success. Everything was perfect. They were even talking about what a perfect soft landing it had. Going into the ocean. They were celebrating like crazy. And of course, this was the first launch since they have gone public with SpaceX. So I think that was why that was so important. If you are watching TV right now, looks like they are taking Senator Lindsey Graham's Capitol into the rotunda. The casket is draped in an American flag. So this is, of course, a very somber and a very meaningful time for those that wish to remember him. He was, regardless of how people felt about Lindsey Graham, it seems there was always a lot of angst with Lindsey. He always was for our country. And I think there is no bigger compliment that someone can make than to be for our country and to be working for the best of our country. So that's what I wanted to say on that. Okay, so dating spreadsheets. Have you heard about this story? Dating spreadsheets. We have become, people used to meet in person, right? Yeah, people used to meet in person. That's the way it went. And everybody, there was anticipation. There were blind dates, all this kind of stuff, right? Then somewhere along the way, we started having dating apps that would match you up with a person. Back in the old days, there was, what was it called, a doula, and a doula would be the person that would try to match, if you were so fortunate to have a doula, right, who tried to match you up. I think this was particularly dominant in the Jewish culture, okay? Then there's an app out there today. I see it advertised on TV, Just Lunch. And they have basically a doula matching people up to go for lunch. And, so you go for lunch, and if it works out, great, you go for a date. If not, you've just had lunch. And, but now, and then people have gone full on dating apps and being matched up and swiping and seeing if anybody interests you. It seems so antiseptic, doesn't it? It seems like meeting in the grocery store or meeting maybe at church, something like that, at a church social or something like that, just seems so much more organic, doesn't it? 864-332-9355. I don't know how you feel about it, but people are really into these dating apps, etc. But now there's a new problem. People are burned out by trying to decide if they had a success on their date. So they now have dating spreadsheets, and you can literally subscribe to an app. They let spreadsheets see whether their date was successful. Forget intuition. Young adults are rushing home to crunch the numbers before they decide if the date actually went well. So it doesn't matter how you feel, right? It doesn't matter how you feel. It matters only that the spreadsheet tells you it went well. Does anybody find this unbelievable? So you go home after your date and you fill out the spreadsheet. And there was this one gal who was smitten by a man she met in an entrepreneurship course. It took a spreadsheet for her to realize that the relationship was doomed. Oh my goodness, this is just terrible. After a few dates, the 27-year-old debriefed her two best friends over lunch. When she went to the bathroom, they got to work. They plugged Travis's core values into an app one of the friends built to assess compatibility. Then they entered everything they knew about her date, an engineer more than a decade her senior. The spreadsheet crunched the numbers. The result, a portrait of incompatibility. So even though the gal was excited about this, felt good about it, the spreadsheet nixed it. Oh my God. Her perspective shifted. She saw him a few more times before breaking things off. Now she uses the app called Spread to track all of her dating data. Talking with friends is one thing, but having that visual representation of what I want versus what I'm allowing is another, said Travis, a child welfare advocate. Come on. Where is the heart in this, folks? Well, that's what we're avoiding, Ann. We don't want any problems with the heart. We're trying to make a long-term relationship here, so we'll do it by the numbers and see how that works. Yeah, but where's the romance? Well, you can have romance with anything, Ann. It says this person, Travis, is among a cohort of spreadsheet singles or love hackers who believe data could hold the cure to their dating woes. They say dating apps that spit out an unlimited menu of potential partners make it too easy to miss obvious red flags. You become a little more willing to make compromises on things you might not usually compromise on just because you're so tired of searching. So why not let a spreadsheet tell you who you should be matched up with? You know, think about this. Think about this. Back in the really old days, parents made the choices for their children. Now we have a spreadsheet making the choice. So the question is, did we ever actually have free love, free capabilities to do these things? I don't think so. We've always been controlled in one way or another. Converts say spreadsheet turn their desires into packaged data sets that they can analyze for patterns. Anything from I typically catch feelings after the fourth date to my best dates tend to work in engineering. The approach, once just the realm of professional matchmakers, is an offshoot of a broader cultural obsession with tracking just about everything. That is true. Nothing is taken for chance. Nothing is just, oh, this is great. No. It's a state of, it's got to fit in the sheets. It's got to fit. Well, that's interesting, Ann. Fit in the sheets. Double entendre here this morning. But it's got to, oh, Lord. It's got to fit by the numbers before you can allow yourself to fall in love with somebody. And then my question is, are you really falling in love with somebody, or are you just doing what's expected? Data, it says here, this is an article in the Wall Street Journal. Singles are so burned out, they're letting spreadsheets evaluate their relationships. Data help people find order and systemize an incredibly chaotic process. They fill out dating apps' biggest blind spot, information gleaned from an actual date. But romance is different from other trackable behaviors like sleep or flatulence. Oh my God, now we're into flatulence. Some love gurus say there is an element of humanity that can get lost in the spreadsheet cells. So what do you think about this? Would you let a spreadsheet decide whether you are in love with somebody or not, or whether you believe you could end up in love with somebody, that, I think, is the question. Rigidity can actually be a shield against the vulnerable. Well, yes. So, I think that's sad. I really think that's sad. I realize that not every relationship that we thought was going to be a success turns out to be a success. But sometimes they were just fun, weren't they? Whether they went somewhere or not. And I wonder if these dating spreadsheets, should you allow yourself to be controlled by a dating spreadsheet? And should the spreadsheet say, oh, this is the one, right? Will this create less divorce futuristically because you let yourself be controlled by a data spreadsheet? I do not believe it. I believe that that is not true. It says in this article, spontaneity and fun is cool, but if you don't align with someone on basic core values, that relationship is inevitably going to come to a halt. So that's why you have a spreadsheet. And then I think the most humiliating part of this, in my opinion, is that you let your friends weigh in on the friends feedback tab on whether your friends think that this relationship has any possibilities. So there you go. She said this girl says, the spreadsheet reminded her how uncomfortable she felt in the moment. She shared the template on social media and has sold it for $9.99 to more than 10,000 people. So there you go. That's the story. I guess you can still buy it out there. If you want to buy a spreadsheet to tell you whether a relationship has a place or not, you certainly can. I have now shared something that I think is slightly ridiculous, but then again, I'm not in that pool. I'm not trying to do that, so maybe that's where I come from. But there is something about the good old days and experimentation. What do you think? 864-332-9355, 864-332-9355. Love to hear your thoughts on that one this morning. Looks like nobody wants to comment on that. Too frightening, huh? Too afraid to if you're exposing yourself. All right, we'll move on. All right, we've talked about the train derailment. We've talked about SpaceX. We've just talked about the dating spreadsheets that tell you what you want. I am going to talk about one story that I find actually quite disgusting. And it is the story about, let's see if I can find it here. I want to make sure I'm getting this correct, not out there in left field or anything on this. These dating, I'm in a dating zone here. These gender dolls. And this, I think, is in Minnesota. They have come up with these gender dolls to, see if I can find it here real quick, that will allow children from like 4 to 10 understand that they don't have to be the gender that they are. I don't think that's the one. Okay. Anyways, I'll just do it from memory here. This story they have spent taxpayer dollars to develop these dolls. It was at a university that they have developed them. If you haven't heard this story, it is just unbelievable. The doll has removable sexual, your organs. You can take and you can attach your ovaries. You can take your ovaries out and put other parts. You can put the penis on there. You can have the hair. They have just a gender neutral doll, and then the child can decide what gender and what things to have on this. What do you think about this? I'll just tell you what I think. I think this is just unbelievable. Who would think that this was a good idea? But the idea is that children can be able to experiment with looking at dolls to figure out that this is not a problem. It is an educational toy. It will be available to use in the schools. I believe that is in Minnesota, and I find it horrible that they are actually doing this. That they think that this is okay to have this, and a child should have to. And they're using it as a way to explain the gender differences, how a child can change their gender if they're not comfortable, etc., etc. They are called gender dolls, and they have, you can put the hair on them, as I said. You can put their different sex organs on them. You can mix it all up, and a child between 4, I think it's specifically designed for like 4 to 8, and if you feel that this is a good thing, I just can't imagine that. Why can we not let our children be children? That is my question. Why can we not let our children be children? Well, it looks like they are. So I'm not going to spend any more time on it. I just wanted to mention it because I think it is important to know that these type of things are out here. Right now, Sherry Biggs is speaking at the ceremony for Lindsey Graham. It looks like we've got Tim Scott. Sherry Biggs is actually speaking right at this moment. So South Carolina is definitely getting their due with the Capitol ceremony honoring Senator Lindsey Graham. So that's what I keep looking at on the TV up there if you're watching. All right. Anything else we want to discuss here today? I did want to tell you, I do think the show Saturday is going to be a really good show. Uptown Market, 7 p.m. The Vintage Vixens from Atlanta. They will be here at 7 o'clock at the Uptown Market. It is going to be a very cool show of 60s, 70s, hippie, fun music. That's right. I plan to be there. Hope you're going to be there. Just having a good time, reminiscing about, quote, the good old days. So that is what's going to be coming up that Saturday. That is going to be a fun one at the marketplace. Also coming up Wednesday at First Pres is a great group that is going to be playing at First Pres. That is going to be another good concert. I don't have, but it's a brass group that'll be playing. Did want to tell you about that because here it is. Shining Bright, Playing Loud, the King's Brass Lakeland Players to perform in a free concert. That is tomorrow evening. I plan to go to that. I hope to see you there at that. Brass instruments at 7 p.m. Wednesday at First Presbyterian Church of Greenwood. You have an opportunity to hear hymns, patriotic tunes, and more played by 9 musicians who hail from across the United States. They will be joined by Lakeland's area musicians for a free concert that is part of the church's cultural art outreach program Festiva. 3 local players, Cody Beard, Eddie Siegler, and Barry Wilson, will join the King's Brass on select numbers, along with Donald Mack, Joey McCain, and Silas Sierra on trombone. So this is going to be a good concert, 7 p.m. free. Festiva program at First Pres. Hope to see you there. That is a fantastic facility. If you've never been there, it's a fantastic facility for music, etc. Just the acoustics is wonderful. So check that one out too. I think I am not going to say much more here today. Penny's story, she didn't even decide to participate and look for a story last night. I'm sorry. She said, "Can't we just reuse the bear story this morning?" The bears the dogs that they have that are bear dogs, and they're trying to chase the bears out. Where is it? In Lake Tahoe? Yes, they are not. That story, we said that one yesterday, Penny. That's not a good one. Okay, well, how about Jimothy? Can we use Jimothy? No, we've used Jimothy, and we're not going to be using that one either. So you're going to have to get to work and find some more stories. Okay, she'll look for some more stories because she's supposed to have a part here. But as you can see, Penny is just a little tired this morning. Are you tired, Penny? I'm tired. You stayed up too late last night. Okay, well, I'm kind of tired too. I tell you what, that's going to do it for us. This is WCRS Radio. We'll be back in the morning. No show this afternoon, but we'll be back in the morning. So make sure you tune in and make sure you check out all of our shows, not only on the website, not only on our Facebook page, but also now on Spotify. It's under A Girl and Her Mic, as well as on iTunes. So you can always go back and listen to the shows there. Love to have you following us over there and checking it out. Sometimes you don't want to see a video, you just want to listen to it. So we'd love for you to do that too. That's going to do it for us. Drop the curtain and goodbye, Greenwood. Have a great day. Have a great day. We'll see you in the morning right here on WCRS.